got to address stuff on the inside. Because if your inner child's doing your picking, then there's some stuff that you need to reconcile first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that no one's looking at, because we're running on autopilot. Who I'm attracted to, what I grew up with, what I was a witness to. If I didn't grow up with my father in the house, for instance, then half of me is missing.
Mm-hmm.
It affects the boy child a little differently than the girl child, but it affects them devastatingly. It's going to show up it's going to show up in the love relationship. That part of me is missing. So if it's a girl child and her father wasn't in her life, then how can she relate to this man? She never seen a man love her mama. Tricky. So what do you get your information from? Internet, TV, family, friends, and you try to cobble together something of what you think should be a good mate, but it's kind of based in, something that's external instead of I grew up seeing it, grew up seeing my mom love my dad loved my mom. That is the prototype, but we're looking at what less than maybe 10 to maybe 15% of black kids from 0 to 18 are seeing mom and dad
Mm-hmm.
grow up with mom and dad in the house. So it's
Mm-hmm.
tricky.
Very, I very, and that's a topic, that's a show within itself right there. This is going to be a little controversial, but it's worth asking, especially in today's culture. What are your thoughts on open marriages and side chicks? Now, before we go any further, the reason I ask this question is because I'm starting to see a trend of where there's a lot of people that's actually okay with it,
Hmm.
and it's acceptable. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, open marriages, technically, well, if we look at our roots, there was a chief and you know, he had many women.
Mm.
Okay. Um, how does that translate? See, but that's a different culture. And so maybe this is some cultural regression back to what we are familiar with. And that way, this guy had to be well off. He had to have land. He had to have animals. What would it call dowry? I give you 18 cows for your daughter. So and maybe the open marriage is a regression, but it's a regression with no. You don't have any data on that.
Mhm.
You may have some DNA predisposition, but you've never really pulled the trigger on that. So
Mhm.
I've had a few clients who were in open marriages, and it's like I think for men, a man knows when he's in love.
Mhm.
When you meet that one woman that's like, you know what, I'm willing to straighten up, fly right, I'm gonna do right. There's that woman whose energy kind of just is your yin to the yang, right?
Mhm.
Just make sure you're not picking your mom. And that fit. And once you're in, the prerequisite to that is, and I ask this to all my clients: how do you love yourself? Right? If I don't know how to love myself, I'll make you take care of me, and we'll, and I'll, and plus, if you're somebody that in parental, you know, yeah, I lost my mom at 6, and you look like my mom, you shape like her, and the inner child goes, yep, there she goes. Okay, take care of me. Hey,
Mm.
you a grown man. You ain't supposed to. I ain't supposed to take care of. Mm-mm. That's why I picked you. And so you get these parallel escalations in terms of expectation, and everybody gets mad. So the open marriage is an attempt to, you know, get what I need externally and then come back into the relationship. So if my wife doesn't do fellatio, right?
Mhm.
I can go over here and get that need met, and I can come back into the relationship. But that means you picked wrong.
Mhm.
All the open marriages, side chicks, it says that you didn't, your selection wasn't what you needed.
Mhm.
And the key is not to pick somebody who's opposite of you. The key is to pick somebody who is like you.
Mhm.
Those are the marriages that last. Let's call it 80-20. 80% we can finish each other's sentences. 20% of the time I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're gonna do. I can live with that, but that opposites attract thing, you don't
Yeah.
want to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So can we talk about that a little more, because we hear that a lot, right? We hear the opposites attract, opposed to find someone that's like you, because the idea is if you pick somebody that's like you, you're going to get bored with this person quick because they are like you. So
That's not what the data says.
okay, yeah,
I
break it
wrote
down.
I wrote an article on the happiest people, and in the interview, the guy said the reason we lasted 70 years is because we're so much alike. We like the same things. We cook the same things. We eat the same things. We have the same level of education. We got the same income amounts. I mean, here's where, people who are right here in the middle, right? Well, we match up pretty well. Now, people who date up and people who date down. If I date down, I'm going to be a butt.
Mm-hmm.
If I date up, I'm going to be a saint. Here's where you have more choices in the middle instead of being on the edges, right? So here's where you want to be, right in here.
Mm-hmm.
Little bitty variations to swing. Like 80% of the time, we're right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we here and I'm dating up, I'm dating a woman out of my league, I'm gonna be perfect. You ain't gonna see it. You're gonna think I'm. But if she's dating down, then she's probably gonna have a wandering eye looking for somebody who's gonna be here,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
vice versa.
that's good. And so, because I'm all off my notes now, you got to saying good stuff, and I just lost track of my notes because you're saying things, and I'm like, I got questions. So you're saying in the middle. So is that middle more of maybe more of your core values as far as the alignment goes? Are you saying like kind of that?
Personality.
Okay.
So I love Myers Briggs for personality because it's gonna tell me. It's fair if you're truthful with Myers Briggs, it'll pretty much get you somewhere in the ballpark. They've gotten it broken down into 16 personalities,
Mm,
and I've studied all 16 of them. They represent a nice range, and it's the first thing I do with couples. I'm like, well, let's see where you are, and I'll do the X and the Y axis with all the 16 personalities, and the color comes up red. That's going to be a problem, and it tells you why it's going to be a problem. Or I'll get green. Green is good. Blue is optimal. You're in Myers Briggs world. If your personality match is blue, y'all should get out. You should get along out the gate. It'll be great.
mm, mhm. That-
Personality, huge.
yeah. That's and then is that available for people like to take a test or a quiz online?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Myers Briggs free. 16personalities.com is where you can take it. It's a free assessment. and not a test, it's an assessment.
Mhm.
Capital of Nebraska is a test. So and you see, you see where you're at personality wise, because personalities have got to mesh. So my personality type, I'm an INFJ. I'm an introvert. My girl is an introvert.
Mhm.
We can curl up on the couch. We ain't go nowhere for New Year's. We were right there on the couch watching movies and TVs. Cool. Now,
Yeah.
but if you got somebody who, oh, let's go out, and you're like, I want to stay in, like, mm,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sometimes it's a good, my opposite is ENFJ. So that's someone whose feeling and sensitivity is like mine, but they're a little more extroverted. Those can work.
Wow.
But I've seen my opposite. What is my opposite? It's an extrovert. My opposite is an extrovert, and I'm like, yeah. And I remember my dating history. I remember a person just like that. I'm like, I can't. No, I was attracted to people who were like my mom. My mom was, finger snapping,
Mhm.
loud, boisterous. What I needed was not that. What I needed was that quiet little church girl that was in the corner.
Mhm.
Not the personality of my mom.
Mhm.
So if you meet somebody and they say, I feel like I've known you all my life, you should probably run.
It's your mama.
That part.
Oh, that is too funny. I'll have that linked up in the description. I mean, in the description below, as far as taking that test, because I think it'll be interesting for people who's watching this or listening
Sure.
to take that test. What are some economic issues that's causing stress on marriages? Uh, are people overspending? Like, help us out.
Well, every male I know